Tyrese Haliburton is out for the season. Miles Turner is gone. Should that influence how the Pacers attempt to play stylistically this season? And can Rick Carlisle keep his same strategies at point guard and center? Kyle Taylor is going to join me for a ton of philosophical discussions about the Pacers' coming season on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, much to discuss about how the Pacers should play this season. They're this up-tempo team, random action, pressure, fly around. It's all great. It got them very far. It also is very centralized around Tyrese Haliburton, who will be out for the year. With that in mind, how should they approach this season? Do they get zany and mix things up? The czar of zany, Kyle Taylor, is going to join us to talk about that today. Or should they try to blend with their old style and get players better playing that way for next year when Tyrese Haliburton potentially returns? And what does that mean for the way the Pacers have approached their dual point guard lineups, how they handle the center spot, and so much more? Really great discussions today. I guarantee we get you to think about something about this team that you haven't thought about yet. You know how I think that? Because it happened to me many times. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's just get right to it with Kyle Taylor. He's back. I have to not harass him at all to have him come back, because every time we talk about things that I haven't thought of before, or we bounce stuff off the wall that people are like, wait, what? And that is what makes this the best. Kyle Taylor, he's written for iPacers blog. He's been on this show many times, is back to talk some Pacers offseason, and more so, what it will look like this coming season stylistically for the Pacers, and two important positions where they lost starters. Kyle, hello, welcome back. How are you?
I am great. It is miserable here in New York. The weather is awful. Flooding, heat, humidity. It's terrible. And to get ready for this podcast was an emotional chore, because I am still, as YouTube watchers will be able to see, I'm still not over Game 7. I'm still emotionally scarred.
I will say that was something from Vegas that doesn't matter for a podcast segment, but a lot of people were like, how did you cover Game 7? I was like, I don't know. I don't think I said a word. Dustin and I talk a lot during games because we sit next to each other. I don't think either of us said a word for over a quarter after Tyrese went down.
I was at the watch party on the middle level, and I walked out into the concourse and sat on a couch and watched the game on the TV by myself.
Yeah, I don't think that was an unpopular reaction. Okay, well, let's look ahead instead of looking back now. That was enough of that. I had an idea for a show, and then Kyle had 5 ideas that were better than my idea, which is whose job is this? And one of them really stood out to me as something that I've wanted to dive into for the Pacers this season. There's been a lot of talk about positions, rotations, who should play, who shouldn't. The crux of this is the first sentence of Kyle's prompt, which is get weird or stick with what works for the Pacers this year, who are this team built on depth and speed and transition and random, as they call it. It's so hard to scout and plan for. And when it's flowing, it doesn't matter who's on the floor. They can score and they figure it out. And that's great. It's a great style. It's worked. And it's worked without Tyrese on the floor sometimes. But I don't think anyone would say that he is not the reason they play that way, right? They got him. They redesigned how they play. He is the master of orchestrating that, of executing that, of not letting the game slow down, of not requiring plays to be called from the sideline over and over again. That's all great. They don't have him this year. And so that is something they have to now figure out is, do they want to try to play that way with the resources they have in the attempt that players will get better and be ready for next season? Or, as Kyle suggested, although I'll let him get into the rest of his prompt, get weird, slow it down a bit, maybe do some stuff that caters to the talent that is actually available this year, in the hopes that those skills can translate into the Pacer style, or perhaps even become the Pacer style. I might have summed up your topic in a way you don't like, Kyle, but what do you think of that kind of balance the Pacers need to strike this coming season?
I'm all in on getting weird. The Pacers need to get weird.
I figured you would be.
I'm so all in on getting weird. And I have good reasons for that and bad reasons for that. Bad reasons for that are I just want to see people try all sorts of stuff. Aaron Nesmith bringing the ball up the floor, levels of weird that we may not ever need to see again. But mostly what I think is that the NBA is a copycat league, and the Pacers, who are known for their pace, a couple years ago ran over the league with a style no one was prepared for. And then last year, the league became a little bit more prepared for it. Their pace was more normal. It was still very hard to play against. They had extreme success in the playoffs. But all of the things that make the Pacers different, like depth, for example, are things that the rest of the league is going to start copying. This ball pressure, full court. I mean, I was seeing some of that in summer league. That's insane. These are a handful of things, pressure, pace, that the rest of the league is going to pick up on. And if the Pacers want to remain competitive for the medium term in this era of the franchise, they need to keep adapting. And adaptation means that they need to put players in positions they aren't comfortable in, test their limits, and find them. And that means next year getting weird. So I've got a bunch of ideas, but what do you think of my premise? Are you more on team get weird, or are you more on the team of they've had tons of success playing a certain way, play that way until you get beat?
Well, to the end about what you said about a copycat league, like I remember talking to an assistant coach with a non-Pacers team pretty early last season when the Pacers were playing, let's say not well, to be kind. They were well below 500, and they said, yeah, everyone's playing like the Pacers, but the Pacers, right? Like everybody was trying to play fast, and like raw pace numbers said the Pacers were playing just as fast last year. But compared to the rest of the league, they went from first to whatever it was, 8th or 9th, and it was like marginally above 10th. You know, they were like above the middle of the pack, but barely. They make the finals. Their opponent is the same kind of team that's also playing fast in the postseason and also is able to uncomfortably play 8, 9, 10 guys, and they're not afraid of that, right? That is this depth and speed thing, and I bet more teams try that next year, even though some teams that shouldn't try that look like they'll be good this coming season. So, yes, that is the next thing if you're the Pacers. And Rick Carlisle's very sharp about where the league is trending. He always talks about his opinions on certain things. What can they get to next? Because that's what they have to, I think, to your point about weirdness, what they have to wonder is when Haliburton comes back in 2 years, can they still be speed, random, awesome team and be a top 10 pace team and a top 10 offense team? And if they can, I think they can't get too weird because that doesn't help their ceiling that much 2, 3, 4 years from now. If they can get weird and have those things blend with that style, that'd be great. Now, if Haliburton can't lead that kind of style anymore, or they have other ways of playing that are just as effective and maybe fresher, then they need to implement those things. And so finding that balance will be hard. Like I might not be quite as zany as you on the scale of what they've been doing to just like, heck yeah, Johnny Furphy doing stuff. I don't know where you land on that. I'm just making stuff up. You're nodding your head. So I don't know exactly where I would be on the scale. I wouldn't say I'm quite on the zaniest end as you, but I do think what the term I'll probably use is like experimenting in some ways should be thought about a lot, whether it's going super small, like we've barely ever seen Neesmith at the 4, right? Do it, right? We'll talk about 1 point guard units later. We'll talk about maybe some not typical convention center ideas later for their rotation. Do it, right? See if it works, see what doesn't work, because you're not only trying to figure out what works for 2 years from now, you're also trying to figure out who works and who can get better at what skills that will matter. So it's a lot of personnel doing new stuff, and it's a lot of like who the specific personnel is. They do need to try new things, but I would not be, I keep using zany, so I'll stick with it. Quite as zany as you, maybe.
Right. I think this is the expectation I think we all need to have as Pacers fans. There is some chance that Tyrese Haliburton comes back and is just not quite the same. I don't know what the percentage chance is, right? There's both a chance he's never the same again, but there's also a chance that he's not the same for a while. Like maybe he's himself in 3 years or in 4 years. And in other words, he reaches that ceiling again, but it doesn't quite line up with the timeline for the rest of the guys. If he's the same right away and you spend the year experimenting, great. You've learned a bunch of stuff. You remember how you played the old way. You go back to it. But on whatever percent chance there is that he is either not the same ever again or not the same for a long time, then you're going to have needed to experiment or get zany anyway. And it's better to put yourself in that position now. And so I have a list of random things, and I can come up with more off the top of my head. But I think one of them is certainly it's time to only play 1 point guard and to deal with the fact that they have an excessive like guard wing room. And they need to figure it out once and for all. Shepard, Neesmith, Mathurin, Furphy, all these guys are sort of Jarris, I guess. Yeah, I guess he's a little bit bigger, but they need to figure out which of these guys really can play with the team and what their ceilings are. And like I said, that means going 1 point guard. For the 1 point guard units, it means TJ needs to probably take his foot off the gas a little bit to preserve some stuff. It means Nembhard can't be picking up full court probably, but you wind up testing all these other guys in ways that they haven't fully been able to show. But again, like I mentioned, Nesmith bring up ball handler, like let's keep testing his ability to handle the ball. Let's keep testing Shepard's ability to handle the ball. I want to see Point Jarris. I mean, listen, if we're talking about the rotation and it's 10 deep again, in my zany rotation, there's one center in that rotation. And I don't care who it is, but Johnny Furphy is one of those other guys because only one center is in the top 10 and we're giving Furphy a chance to develop. And the zaniness and development sort of go hand in hand. But I mean, dribble handoffs, zone defense, like there's a lot of stuff they can experiment with on both ends of the floor that gets away from their pace and pressure identity of last season and allows them to be more versatile 2, 3, and 4 years down the road.
So that's kind of the interesting balance to strike that I've talked about when I did the, like, what is a gap year actually doing? Like, what are you actually trying to accomplish in that year? Because I think a lot of the default answer is just like, tank, get the highest pick. Look at this kid at BYU. Hoo-ha. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, I guess if there's like no emotion in basketball, these aren't people playing the games, you just go 0-82. But like I've said this before, so I'll make this case and blend it with what you're saying. Like after this season, Pascal Siakam is extension eligible. After this season, and right now, Aaron Nesmith is extension eligible. Ben Mathurin will be a free agent next year. I think if I search through, TJ McConnell will in theory be extension eligible, I believe, after this year. Obi Toppin will be extension eligible after this year. There are lots of guys who like want to play well this year, right? There's like real reasons for their life and wallet for them to want this season to look good for them. And so they want to win as much as they can and play well. And when I talked to Rick at Summer League, that's in the story I did the other day, he talked about like, yeah, we're going to try to win with what we have, albeit he did acknowledge that they're like young. So I understand that part of it. Like they have to gun for it. In some ways, those guys are going to be trying. They went 4-4 without Ty last year. I think it was, that might be wrong. 4-4 when Ty didn't play and Andrew Nembhard did play. That's what it was. So, okay, maybe they could be like a 500 team. All out of the spreads suggest that. So like what is the goal of a 500 team that's getting a potential superstar in 2 years? But to your other point, that's where I think they have to find the blend is you're trying to win, but they've been trying to win with Nembhard and Haliburton, and then it goes to Nembhard McConnell, and then it's McConnell, Haliburton. I got that backwards, but whatever. They always had two of them on the floor. Like, is that a requirement? Like, try it with one, right? Do you have to play 2 point guards? No, you can get these guys out there. Do you have to play a center all the time? Like you're saying, we'll talk more about center later, but like, or could just Obi Toppin be your starting five if that's your best group? Like maybe that's your best answer in the Haliburton era, right? And then you can get Furphy out there, you can get Jarris out there. Things are great. So they have enough young guys who are kind of good that I don't think it's impossible for them to blend those things, but that is kind of what I think they need to make their focus become, is blending it as much as possible and not over-indexing on this is what our style has been. Let's keep slamming our head against the wall with it, even without the guy who makes it hum as much as possible. But they also can't go too much to me of just like, yeah, start the 23 and under group and everybody's got an ankle injury. We'll see you next year. Like they have to find the right middle ground, but also like that's hard. Like going 500 is not fun in the NBA. It's like winning is fun, and it's great that they'll probably play a meaningful game after the season anyway because the East is so bad. But it just it's not exciting. Like you get out of the season, it's like you have the 10th pick and you lost in the first round. You know, they have to find the right balance to come out of the season feeling like they're better set up for the year after, and that's why they have to get the blend right. Everybody, quick break to talk about OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need. Maybe a plumber, maybe a different service provider. If the first company you called didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone, the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. They let everybody manage business calls and texts from one single app. They have a shared inbox feature. It's a game changer. Anyone on your team can jump into any conversation instantly. You don't miss a beat. And they have an AI agent that'll handle after-hours calls, answering common questions, capturing leads, so you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering listeners of this podcast 20% off your first 6 months. How about that? At openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have an existing number with additional service, OpenPhone will port it over at no additional charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
You and I were talking about this a little before we got on, but if we're zooming out and saying what is this era's best chance for contention? Like how do we get there? Map it out, right? We're down 2 starters for the coming year. We're getting one back in 2 years. The real best path for this team to contend again in 3 or 4 years is that pick a player, Andrew Nembhard, Jarris Walker, Ben Mathurin. One of those guys, or even 2 of them, need to be that sort of like just below all-star level or all-star level. And the way you get there is that you go for it when you take the floor. And yeah, if you get injured and players get shut down and we're conservative with injuries, that also makes sense. But this team's path back to contention is that one of these guys pops, and that Andrew Nembhard's pull-up three-point shooting in all of his regular seasons is a fluke, and his numbers in all of his playoffs are real. And actually, that's just the player we've got. And guess what? That guy's going to get all-star votes. That path is that's not a wide path, but it is the best one. And I think if Pacers fans look, I'm going to be honest, something I was totally wrong about a few years ago. I thought this team, when they were in the Brogdon, Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb years, I was thinking to myself, they have no path, they're a treadmill of mediocrity, et cetera, et cetera. And because the front office kept trying to find ways to win, eventually they did find ways to win. And we should trust this group of guys who they've entrusted to win and who have won. We should trust them that when given more responsibility, they can keep doing that. And if it pops for one of them, this team can be back. I don't know about to Game 7 of the finals, but can they be back to the conference semifinals or the conference finals in 2, 3, or 4 years? Yes.
It's funny to think about something you just said in there, the like one of Nembhard or 2 or all 3, whatever, of the Nembhard, Mathurin, Walker, and maybe other guys fit in their group becoming very good, all-star level, close to all-star level, whatever, being so important now because, I mean, going into last year, I picked them for 49 wins, but I went back and looked at, I have to do this every offseason because I do this thing where I do over-unders and, random predictions for the coming season. And like, it was very interesting listening back to last year, not quite at this time, like more August-y, but how much talking about what last year would be like for the Pacers was like, okay, start Mathurin to start the season. And then by the trade deadline, they'll figure out what they can get for Mathurin or Walker and all this stuff. And and then they didn't have to do that. And they still made the finals. Right. And so now they're hitting that reality again. But this time it is like urgent that they figure that stuff out because of this Haliburton injury timing. Like it's given them an opportunity to do something that seemed like they should do 2 years ago before they became, much better than most people thought, or I thought even. And now they're in this spot to do this again. And so I do think that is kind of a paramount goal for the season. But what's the best way to do that? Is it catering to their strengths? Is that actually helpful when you come back with Haliburton in 2 years? If you cater to these guys' strengths and they look better, like, okay, are they going to still look as good in 2 years? Like, yeah, they're a better player, but are they capable of switching to that style? Like, you never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
It's always great to maximize their assets, though. Continue.
Yeah, Caitlin Cooper put this really well. I think she said it this way many times, so I'm stealing from her because she's the best. The Pacers had a bunch of players who wanted to play one way, and they had a bunch of players who wanted to play another way. And she had this sort of like some players play one way and some play another way. The fast players being led by Tyrese, the sort of slow it down players you can imagine being someone like Mathurin and Pascal, able to sort of live in either world. And you can't play Tyrese ball without Tyrese, and the Pacers play Tyrese ball. That's what got them to the finals. And this season, I just like, it's very possible the Pacers' best lineup, their best net rating, the one that they close with when they want to win games, is McConnell, Nembhard, Nesmith, Toppin, Siakam. It's very possible that that's true. But for them to reach the ceiling that we just saw them reach a month ago, I think that lineups need to include Furphy, Walker, Shepherd, Mathurin, these other guys who, look, have had up and down portions of their careers with the Pacers, who've at times fit in really well and at times have not. Sometimes have looked really bad and sometimes have not. I mean, look, with young players, I personally throw most of the advanced stats out the window. You got to watch them play to figure it out. And the advanced stats have not been kind to a lot of these guys. And when my zoomed out, how do we get back to the place we just were? Zany. All in on Zany, because even if I know what the best lineup is likely to be next year, I think the Pacers owe it to those same guys who just got them to the finals. They owe it to those guys to say, we can get you back there. You can take us there. And it's by experimenting with, tick off your 5 favorite crazy ideas. Pick your 2 or 3 favorite young players. We're going to get them more time. We're going to get reps in a new way. And in a couple years, we will be more versatile, more adaptable. And yes, we can still dial the pace up to 100, but maybe we can also be really good when it slows down too.
And to your point about that closing 5, like default, what everybody expects the rotation to kind of look like. If the bench is McConnell, Shepherd, Walker, Toppin, and a 5, can that group score like that much? Like, that's a lot to put on TJ McConnell for however many games of a season. Like, is that? And it's obviously not that simple. They very rarely play all 5 bench guys together. Although you and I talked a lot last season, like, hey, they're probably playing 4 of them together too much. Like, you got to balance that more. And so what are these groups going to look like? How's we're going to blend these things? Hey, that gets us to discussion number 2 that we wanted to have, which you already brought up. They have loved to play 2 point guard groups, right? Nembhard, Haliburton. If you sort by all 3 combos of Nembhard, Haliburton, McConnell, those 2 played together for almost 1,500 minutes last season. Haliburton, McConnell played together for almost 400 minutes last season. More than as much Nembhard, McConnell as I realized, but they very often had 2 of them out there. The most often solo group by far was McConnell with the bench group without the other point guards, but they had Mathurin, and Mathurin might be a starter this year. His role might change in a way that changes these things. They were very good with Nembhard, Haliburton together. They were pretty good with McConnell and Haliburton together. They were not very good with Nembhard, McConnell together, but obviously that might change because they might play with starters this season. Do they want to keep doing that? Do they want to try 1 point guard stuff? Because who knows what'll happen 2 years from now rotationally. I still think if Nembhard's on the team, he'd be a starter, but do they want to explore what Nembhard at the solo backup could look like? What does that mean for McConnell? Figure it out. You have a chance to this year. I'll be very curious how Rick thinks about that, because another reason they go to 2 point guard so much is it allows them to play fast and play random the way that they want.
The biggest shame for me would be that we get an even heavier dose of TJ Ball. And I mean, TJ Ball is can score a lot of points, and it was really valuable in the playoffs. And if I'm going to be, the czar of the zany Pacers fandom, I have to demand that TJ slow down his TJ Ball, and that when he gnashes and cuts across the baseline, that he looks to pass, that he brings the ball up a little bit slower, that he pressures a little bit less and is able to play more minutes and runs more traditional point guard like sets and actions when he's on the floor, because I care so much about seeing everyone else get involved. I know TJ can do great stuff. And when it's time to win, when it's the 4th quarter, I will accept TJ Ball with open arms. But for 3 quarters of the game, I want to see him slow down. I want to see Nembhard run the show alone. And listen, if I'm going to be the czar of zany, then it's got to be me also saying, when one of those guys gets nicked up, I want to see Cam Jones and Quentin Jackson, because of this same. If you're in on this way of thinking, you got to be willing to kind of go all in and say, look, prove it. This is something I think Rick doesn't get enough credit for. Even though it's something I've also criticized him for, frankly. Rick always starts with trust. A guy has to lose trust. And a guy can lose trust. Thomas Bryant lost trust in the finals.
Jalen Smith 2 years ago, we could find lots of guys.
That's right. But they always start with it. And that is that's a very good way to manage people. And I'm asking him to start with trust when it comes to Jarris Walker, Johnny Furphy, and Ben Mathurin. And I'm asking for his well of trust to be deep.
One more break here, guys. We got to talk about Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it absolutely can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending all right there in one place. In addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. You can see all sorts of surprising insights. You know how much you're spending on certain categories, takeout, subscriptions. Maybe it adds up to more than you expected. You can make some changes. Everything in one app makes it easy to manage your money day to day. And if you share your finances with somebody, you can put shared accounts in there so you can chase your financial goals, see everything in all your spending in one place, and have no more surprises. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off of your first year. Is Tsar of Zany? Is Zany spelled Tsany? Is that how this works now?
Well, I think the Russians allow you to spell Tsar with a T or with a C.
I'd accept CZAN.
CZAR.
CSA. This is the important things that Locked On Pacers is here for today. Yeah, those are all good points. And to my point about the middle, I very rarely like when a team straddles lines. Like I always feel like at trade deadlines and transaction periods, and even when a team is building what they are, like on the court, it's very important for them to like, here's your style, go that way, right? Do that, commit to that. Don't straddle.
It's why the Pacers have been so good because
Yes.
they have committed.
Yes, they and team directionally, basketball style. Like once Rick got there, the synergy from front office to on-court product has been like perfect. And so it's so easy to say commit to one side or the other. The reason I'm in the middle is like the next season after this will be so much different that it's almost like if you go too far to the opposite side of the line, is this actually helping you? I'm not saying I disagree with you. I do think they need to.
And again, I'm just going to level the same challenge, which is, do we know that?
Yeah,
Are we certain? Are we certain that in
but that's their best bet to being really good again, right? They have to assume that, I would think.
They have to assume that but this is the point, right? They have to assume that he will be able to reach his ceiling again. But
maybe not quite that high, but somewhat high, yes.
And it's both, is it that high and on what timeline? And it's because both are up in the air that like Brianna Stewart tore her Achilles and it took her a few years to get back to MVP form, but she did. Like 4 years later after she tore her Achilles, she was MVP.
I'll have the Fever game up on the other thing because they're playing Liberty. She is tearing them up right now. She is 10-5-4 and it's 7 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Right. She tore her Achilles. I think she was like the same age that Tyrese was when he just tore his. And she's still like able to tear it up into her 30s. Maybe not quite to the level she would have been otherwise, and maybe not to the level she was earlier in her career, even a few years ago. But the point is that she was able to get there, but it did take time. And for Tyrese, it could be the same. And this is why I'm saying we don't know how long that gap will be. But to get back ever, these guys have to, like I said, one or more of these guys, and take your pick from the young guys. One of them has to really pop. And whether that means that they are on the team and in the core and, are, on the team for another 10 years, that's one path, or they get traded for someone who takes the team back there. Either way, if the Pacers are just bad and tank and it's sort of like, well, that's it, then they have literally 1 year and only 1 year to get the draft exactly right with no mistake. And it's very hard to do that. The draft is much more random than I think most fans want to believe it is.
If you nail the draft, great. Is that guy going to help you that like right away? Is he on your timeline? Like
again, that guy might help you in 4 or 5 years.
Yes. And then, when
Pascal is 38,
37 by then or whatever. Yeah. Right. Like it's very tricky. And Haliburton, they got to game 7 of the finals. Like what they just did proved to be good enough that I think they have to kind of tip toward the assumption that this era can be at least really good again. Maybe not quite that high. But what does that actually mean for what we're talking about? And I agree with you, to be clear, that they need one of the young guys to pop. I said that to you before we started.
And I'm saying that they have to be intellectually flexible enough to believe two things, both that they can get back to where they were, but that it might not look the same. And if you're willing to believe both those things and be open to a future that doesn't look like the past, then you're compelled, I think, to take the court next season with new ideas, new sets, new schemes, new pace, new people, and risk it, because that future is, we all, like every Pacers fan will run. I'm not saying like a title would feel amazing if we ever get to experience one. It's unlikely we will ever have a run like that again, because no team in sports ever has a run like the Pacers just gave us. And they owe it to themselves and their future, to the franchise and to all of us to like put it in to try to get back there. And I think that means getting weird.
Being the Tsar is Amy. That was very deep. That was good. I might just make that the 1 minute clip for tomorrow's promotion of this show. Is that last minute of you talking. That was good.
In life and in basketball, we are compelled to try new things even when it's uncomfortable.
Not me in Rocket League recently, but slam my head against the wall being crap at my favorite hobby. That's a good time. Okay. Last thing I want to talk to you about. I brought this up with Rhett yesterday. I just floated to him who should be the starting center because I'm just endlessly fascinated by this by committee approach that they're trying. They're replacing a now $25 million player with 4 guys who are 26 or younger. I don't know how old Tony Bradley is. So here, I brought it up with him. 2 things I want to add. One is Rick, when I asked him about Isaiah and he was talking about the center spot, he said Tony Bradley's name. And I might be like overthinking that. He just happens to be under contract. But I was like, oh, is he in the plans if he's being brought up in that conversation? 2, I also brought up at the end with Rhett, and you mentioned it here. Is it possible that Obi's the answer? And you seem to be leaning more into that than any of the other options as like real solutions at the 5. What are you thinking Obi starting is the answer? What is your approach to the center spot as the Pacers?
Yeah, my approach to the center spot is like one big shrug.
Same.
I simply don't know what to make of 2 guys coming back off Achilles tears. People have I've seen polls on Twitter that are like, who should start at the center spot? And I'm like, can I see any of them play first? Because 2 of them, like my memories of Isaiah Jackson are good, but I just said what I said about Tyrese Haliburton. Is he going to be fully himself as he was 100% right when we get back to preseason and training camp? I mean, probably not, but who knows? And so, look, I haven't gone through all the J Huff film, and at some point I'll watch some of it. I recognize that there are aspects of his play that are really intriguing, and I've seen Tony Bradley defend pick and roll, so maybe I'm a little bit lower on him than the other guys. But really, my opinion is what I said before, and it's that in my 10-man rotation, there's 1 center, and maybe it's different at different points in the season, but I guess I am taking their signing 4 centers as in training camp, preseason, and early season. We're going to test this out because, I mean, look, you could just tell me what you think. I don't think there will be 4 centers on the roster after the trade deadline.
No, I don't know.
And
I mean, look, Tony, both Bradley and Wiseman are not fully guaranteed. Like they're signaling openness to even without a trade, not having 4 after January 1st. Or whatever.
Right. And so my they should try all these guys. And, at different points, I would like to see different members of this quartet in the starting unit or playing serious minutes. But it is my opinion or my preseason view that the best 5-man unit is going to involve Obi Toppin, not any of the traditional centers. Again, pending seeing
quite often.
Yeah, pending seeing what they look like for real.
Yeah, that is totally possible. I mean, Rick has been willing on the biggest stages to be like, "Yep, Top and Siakam, let's go. This is our best matchup for what the opponent
such
has
as in the finals, such as in the NBA finals,
the biggest of it. But also against the Bucks in the first round, both of the last 2 years. Not as much against the Cavs, but sometimes against the Cavs, never against the Knicks. Like they've done it. They have done it quite often in a way that's like, okay, they clearly like it as a look. When I wrote like Obi Toppin bouncing back in December of this season that just happened was partially because he was playing the 5, right? Like they didn't have Thomas Bryant yet. Moses Brown wasn't working out. They had Miles, and then the other 2 guys were on 20 kilos. They're like, Obi, you have to play the 5. And they turned their season around that month, and they got Thomas Bryant in the middle of it, but like he was good. He can do it. Is it the best thing for him to do it every single minute of an entire 82-game season? No, absolutely not. And Rhett made a good point yesterday of like, Obi's really good. He's also really good in the old Pacer style, the Haliburton style, right? Is he going to look as good in whatever their new system is? And if not, is him playing the 5 way to, air quotes, compensate for that drop-offs? And so your idea would be that he's a 5, and then whoever the best is of this other off to the side group is the backup. But because they're all 26 and younger, I don't think there's like an age-related reason to pick one.
Yeah, I guess maybe I should clarify here. I would imagine that one member of the quartet is a starter and Obi is a closer. That is how I would. I'm
fine with that.
Consider it.
And I'd accept any of them, right? Like I get the argument, and my argument personally, if they're going to play 2 centers in a rotation, which is what I just suspect from like traditional basketball thinking, but the Pacers have not always adhered to that, is that Isaiah Jackson, my choice would be that he'd be the starter. We have no idea how good he's going to be, to your point, but he knows the system the best. He is clearly paid like the guy they expect to be the best. They know his rehab situation better than anyone on the planet. And if he is even close to a vertical spacer again, he's definitely, I think, the best defender of the 4 they have. Like even maybe off the Achilles, it's probably him as the best defender of the group. I would start him. But I understand the like, hey, look, Pascal fit really well with Miles, and that was part of what unlocked him a little bit. The closest to Miles center, not even debatable, is Jay Huff. He can shoot it. He's got some pop. He reverse dunks every dunk for some reason. Like, he's just kind of a goofy player, but he provides actual like floor level spacing for guys to operate and be good. I'd understand that as well. Obi is athletic and can shoot, right? Like, that's both of those things in theory. So it's kind of, it keeps creeping in my head a little farther. Like, every day of the summer, I'm like, man, maybe Obi at the 5 does make sense. However, as an actions speak louder than words guy, a team that picked up Tony Bradley's option and then signed James Wiseman and then traded for Jay Huff and then signed Isaiah Jackson does not tip as a team that's going to be playing Obi Toppin very often at the 5, I guess, outside of closing tight games like you're saying.
Right. I think the other aspect of this is fit with Nembhard and sort of like your starting group.
Yes.
And there, certainly Nembhard and Ijax had great chemistry when they were coming off the bench a few years ago.
Totally.
I think they were like one of the top dunk combos in the league, and they were both bench players. Jay Huff is very interesting in that role because it sort of clears the lane theoretically for Nembhard to drive more. And that would be something that I really want to see a lot of. I mean, Bradley and Wiseman, the fit with Nembhard, I don't understand at all. I mean, frankly, I'm not sure how well either of them fit with anyone else they're going to be playing with, but that's, I guess, a separate conversation. I'm certainly more optimistic about Ijax and Huff, but again, it's kind of all a shrug for me until I watch some preseason basketball and have overheated takes from that.
I'm having a summer league, man. Get Philip Wheeler in this center rotation. Get him in there. He's balling.
He was balling at times. I do care about defense though, so I'm not sure how much I can get on board with this.
Yeah, his defense has not been great, and also like if he gets the ball within 5 feet, it's going up. It's going toward the rim.
To be fair, it is summer league. Like if I were playing summer league, like it's got to go up. Like I'm sorry, that's what everybody's there to watch. Like it's
to his credit, when it goes up, it's going in quite often. Good for you, Philip Wheeler. And we haven't even mentioned Enrique Freeman, who's like still in the mix. He's a restricted free agent. They can't unilaterally pull that qualifying offer. He could sign at any time. They got to figure out their two-way situation.
I might be higher on Enrique Freeman than at least one member of the quartet.
I mean, in the era of zany experimentation, this is a second-year young guy. I mean, he's older for a young guy because he was in college for forever. But like, why not? Right? Put him on the two-way, see what happens. He mentioned in his post Game 3 of Summer League interview, like his mindset had to shift after that first game, and you could tell he's been better in the last 2. Like, I would like to see him have one more good Summer League game. Then I'm like, okay, I think that it's like comfortable if he's your 4th center next season as the Pacers, given their current reality. To finalize your point, 2 years ago, Nembhard, Jackson together, Pacers plus 2.5 net rating. Run it. Nothing has changed in the last 2 years. Run it. That's it. That's the answer.
I mean, Nembhard's gotten better, which is a great. I mean, I expect that to be plus 12, not plus 2.
It was only 5 games last year, but Isaiah Jackson was pretty dang good in those 5 games. I don't know if we can take anything from.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just like these Achilles injuries, man. Like at least one of these 3 guys, Ty, Wiseman, or Ijax, at least one of them is probably just not going to be the same player again. Like that, it just like the history of this injury is really bad. Recently,
like the treatments have gotten better, right? Durant has been very good on the other side. The guy that everybody brings up because he was like almost exactly the same player as former Pacer Wes Matthews, who like went from Portland to Dallas and was like, yeah, this is the exact same Wes Matthews. Like recovery has gotten better. Certainly it's a little faster, although to get to like your full peak takes longer, I would say. But I have confidence they can all, maybe confidence is the wrong word. I have some sort of, if you're the Pacers, I think you have optimism they can be similar players. If they're ever be exactly the same, who knows? I think how Jackson and Wiseman perform this season will be telling, or if any of these other Achilles guys come back, because there were a lot in the league last year, alas. Do you have anything else on these points today? You gave me so many other things I'll have to get to in the future.
No, I think I'll keep my title as Czar of Zany for at least the rest of the summer.
You're probably relieved of your volunteering your time to Tony East duties until actual serious stuff is happening in at least October. We discussed this before, so no one really cares. But it is currently Liberty 47, Fever 32 with halftime approaching. So my prediction is looking a little better than yours for this game, to the extent that that is even relevant.
Yeah, both the Liberty and the Fever have been a bit disappointing of late.
Yeah, and one of them lost their star player for this game. Probably not good. Kyle, where can people find you and the things you say about the Pacers? And where can the czar of Zany post his zany thoughts?
I am on Twitter at one Kyle Taylor, and I occasionally Derek at iPacers blog has been kind enough to let me write some stuff there. So I wrote most recently. I wrote a sort of postseason eulogy, I suppose.
Eulogy sounds nicer than what you said. It was sad.
It was very sad.
It was sad.
It was very sad.
Getting thoughts on paper is helpful, though.
Yes.
I enjoyed the playoff coverage on iPacers. Derek had you, and then Dylan Hughes came in, and then Ben Gibson.
Totally.
Oh, all the OGs of the blogging days. All the OGs of the blogging days of Pacerland. Back tomorrow here, talking Pacers Knicks. Let's go. Conference Finals Summer League rematch featuring, we'll see who's playing in that game. Pictures of Quentin Jackson in sweats at practice popped up. We'll see if he plays. I would like to see him play one more time, and maybe one more Enrique Freeman game. Maybe one more AJ Dennis game. I've seen enough from just about everybody else who matters for the Pacers out there. And then they play the Pelicans Friday. Summer League is over. We'll wrap that up all as we go. Kyle, thank you for the time. Everybody, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. See you very soon.